Hi, I'm Dan from HPC, and in this Toolbox Talk video I'll be covering noise exposure. It's important to understand the risks, dangers and impacts that noise levels can have on workers. Exposure to excessive, loud or hazardous noise in the workplace can result in hearing loss or tinnitus, both having long-term or permanent impacts on workers. Exposure to ototoxic substances can also result in the aforementioned conditions. In this video we will explore how loud is too loud, how to protect staff from harm, and how to control noise exposure in the working environment. So, how loud is too loud? Hearing damage can occur if we are exposed to noise above 80 decibels for an extended period, such as an 8-hour shift, for example. In addition, exposure to noise of 140 decibels or more in a one-off instance could also lead to hearing damage. To add some context, here's a few common sounds and their decibel ratings. So a gun or a firearm would be 150 decibels, sirens would be around 120 decibels, and loud music played at max volume would be around 105 decibels, whereas a normal conversation would sit at around 60 decibels. You'll likely have noticed that most smartphones have built-in warnings for headphone users advising of excessive noise exposure in an attempt to prevent hearing damage. This same caution needs to be applied within the workplace. Businesses are advised to review and assess noise exposure in the workplace. This helps to understand the scale of any hazards, it helps to identify any sources of hazardous noise, and also implement any control measures. It's also important to regularly review any control measures to ensure that they are effective, and effective also protecting the hearing of your workers. So how, as an employer, can we prevent hearing damage? In an ideal scenario, you would be able to prevent hearing loss by completely eliminating the damaging noise altogether. In a scenario where it's not possible, it is important to explore what controls are available. These may include noise dampening panels, sound barriers or enclosures. You would also want to explore what hearing protection is available for workers and how exposure to noise can be limited. For example, the job rotation is one way you can limit how long an employee is exposed to any damaging noise. In this situation, it's important that employees are trained on using any protective equipment and have a clear understanding of what is deemed to be the maximum exposure, and that exposure limits need to be upheld. Some examples of protective equipment are earplugs and/or earmuffs. Again, it's important that employees are trained in using this equipment effectively. It's also important that the effectiveness of this equipment is regularly reviewed and tested. It's very important that you provide an ongoing duty of care to your workers. For those working with potentially damaging levels of noise, it should be recommended that annual hearing tests should be conducted. So what are the takeaways on this topic? The key factors that you need to understand are what levels of noise can damage your hearing, the levels of noise your workers are exposed to and for how long, the ways to reduce exposure to hazardous noise, and also the right hearing protection and how to look after it. Lastly, it's important to understand how seriously noise awareness and protection should be taken. Hearing damage is permanent with long-term impacts. Management and workers need an understanding of how to ensure preventative measures are treated with the required level of importance. If you would like support or guidance with implementing noise awareness and protection within your organisation, please contact the HPC team using the details that can be found in the description of this video. Thank you.